Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to discuss The Wrathbringer by Mr. Christopher G. Brenning. He's in the room, Chris, so don't say anything bad about Christopher. He's here. But Chris, you want to give us an introduction? Chris Moen, sorry. You're a mute still up to your crisp.
Sorry, I've been throwing about a lot of hoops into my mouth, and I may be caught in my throat every now and again. But my name is Chris Moen. I'm a sometimes YouTuber, sometimes guest on Steve's podcast, and a lover of the Hellborn King saga, as it turns out.
Nice. And of course, the man of the hour, Mr. Christopher G. Brenning.
Yep, I'm Christopher G. Brenning from Wisconsin, author of the Hellborn King saga. Yeah, great to be back with you guys. Feels like we just chatted, maybe like a couple days ago.
It does feel like a couple days ago. They're, for being such big books, they're really easy to read. You fly through them, so they look intimidating, but they're really, really easy to read.
Yeah, I tried to make the writing style accessible, and especially in the Wrathbringer, make the chapters a little bit shorter so that it does feel like you're flying through it. And then when you get done with one chapter, you're like, well, maybe just one more. And then when you get done with that, well, maybe just one more. So
yeah, I fell into that trap.
Yeah,
pretty good job.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. I can another 10, 15 minutes before I have to go to sleep. One more chapter. And then
Yeah.
It's like, oh crap, what time is it? Yeah. So I guess we could start with the prologue. Chris Moen, what did you think about the prologue?
So the prologue, obviously, there was a lot to live up to. I think I like the prologue a bit more because I think what I really like about it, and I didn't know this obviously when I read it at the time, it took the book away from the setting that book one had given me, and actually said, there's more to this world than what I've given you out so far. And I think for a lot of part, that's a lot of the theme of the second book for me, is that it expands upon the possibilities or on the language of the world and everything that goes on. And actually that bit at the start really, really helps set that, and still be gruesome and a bit perilous and all the things that you probably want out of a prologue.
That is a great point, that it takes you, it kind of expands the world at the same time. And our friend John's here, the king of hot takes himself.
Hello, sorry I'm a little late.
No, it's okay. We figured you'd pop in when you can. So
hide your dogs, hide your cats. Here's John.
Well, the ironic part here is the reason I'm late was a dog thing.
Oh wow!
So you might hear barking in the background, and if you do, I apologize. But one of our dogs is having puppies right now, and the dog that's having them is having kind of a little bit larger than normal, so she's like screaming every time she has a baby, and when she does that, all the other dogs hear it and start to bark and go crazy. So
well, once you said if you hear barking in the background, that implied that the dog's still alive, so it's like, oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay,
we all thought the same.
Unfortunately, yes, they're all alive.
Okay, good. Good.
For now.
Yeah, I was gonna say the barking could have been the last throes of life, though. That was also a possibility, the authors want.
Right.
So, John, did you want to give us a quick introduction?
I'm some guy online that writes books occasionally and also really enjoys the three people that are on this podcast. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome.
Yeah, glad you can make it. We were just talking about the prologue for the Wrathbringer. What did you think about the prologue versus the first one?
I think I actually maybe tagged Christopher on Twitter after I read the prologue, and said immediately, wow, I really like this way more than the first book. Just already. I was like, really? Wow. Like, something about the second book really clicked a lot more for me personally. I don't know why. Maybe, Christopher, you just got that much better. I don't know.
I would say so. I think, between the first and the second book, there was a lot of improvement that took place in a relatively short amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think every single book that basically any writer writes, they just dramatically improve. And I mean, I've noticed that for myself as well. So props to you, I guess.
Thank you.
I enjoyed Wrathbringer a a lot more than Hellborn King. And Hellborn King I liked, but like Wrathbringer I liked.
Yeah, I feel like I really hit my stride with Wrathbringer. Now the books that I'm working on now, keyword books, books, two of them. Yeah, like it's easier to get in that groove, and I know what to expect. I know what to do, and yeah, I think you guys are gonna love the works to come just as much, if not more, than the Wrathbringer.
Nice. Well, we hope that we're on your list of early, beta readers or arcs.
Oh, absolutely. Come on,
Okay,
absolutely.
right. Just gotta throw it out there. But John, the prologue from the Hellborn King versus the Wrathbringer. What did you think about the prologue for the Wrathbringer?
So I think that the prologue of the Hellborn King might have been one of the strongest chapters in the book. I think it was a really good chapter, but I think I don't know. There's just something about the first chapter or the prologue in Wrathbringer that I don't know. I just really liked that chapter. I don't know because they kind of start out on they're kind of similar vibing, right? You have like a random character's point of view. I guess it's not random, but like not a established character, and then and then they end up dying, right? And well, in Hellborn King, but
Oh, yeah.
a lot of other shit happens in the prologue of Wrathbringer. Sorry, I'm getting confused there, but I don't know. I just like the vibe of the prologue in Wrathbringer a lot more. It was just, I don't know if it was the character or the setting or what it was, but I found it a lot more interesting. And I say that as someone that did really like the prologue of Hellborn King. I think like Hellborn King, it has like saying it's a predictable ending is incorrect, but you kind of have a sense that shit might go bad, right? But in Wrathbringer, the hell that starts is a bit more surprising. I think it's a bit more like bam, and you're like, whoa.
There's some pretty surprising moments.
Yeah.
So Shad is here. He wasn't able to attend live. Hope you can watch it after. And our friend Aaron is here, excited to chat all things Wrathbringer. And Omnis is here. Hello, thanks for coming by. And he loved the Hellborn King, but haven't finished Wrathbringer. Hope we don't spoil anything.
Yeah, you might want to leave.
Yeah. There's lots to spoil in the Wrathbringer. So
Lots to spoil.
And Aaron read my mind. Aaron's comment: books. Can you tell us more? Are one of the books a short story collection? Can you confirm?
Can confirm.
Nice.
I wouldn't say short story. I would say more novella length.
Okay.
So that one and book 3 are the ones I'm working on simultaneously. I kind of went back and forth on, well, do I put out book 3 first or the novella? And the novella is going to be a prequel to the whole saga.
Right.
Kind of with my winter work schedule now and everything, I've decided I'm going to put the prequel out first, because who knows how long it's going to take for me to write book 3. So I figured, now while I'm still relevant and I have momentum going, I'll try to get something out in the spring. Nice. Kind of stay on people's minds. So
have you been
makes sense.
Writing much of the third book yet?
Yes, I would say I'm about almost 10,000 words into it, and then the prequel is about 6 to 9,000. I don't know, somewhere in there. I haven't really been keeping track of the prequel as well as book 3, but making good progress on both of them.
Very nice. And so the first thing that struck me with the Wrathbringer was, other than the prologue, was, I'm going to mispronounce his name again. Einar. Sorry, I'm bad at the names.
That's okay.
But his from going from fighting in the war to going back to a normal life, that struggle of being called a coward, people are disrespecting him, like, why aren't you out there fighting, why are you back here? I thought all that was really powerful, because that must be something that people go through in real life, that And when they get out of that kind of situation, they deal with that, and they have those thoughts, and they have this guilt of not being there with everybody.
Yeah, especially since he's the one that got them into the war in the first place, because Damien approached him and he's the one that convinced, the elders and everything that, hey, this is a cause worth championing. And, he took, the Nothanic to war, and now he's one of the first ones to come back, and everyone's like, whoa, hey, man, what's the deal? If your convictions are that strong, why aren't you still out there fighting? We've got family that's still out there. And so, yeah, he faces a lot of resentment when he comes back to Skagenleth. And then his journey is sort of a journey of rediscovery, and then there's also a lot of foreshadowing with the different visions and everything that he sees.
Yeah, I assume when I see some people going, I don't really see the purpose of one of the characters. I always assume they're talking about Einar, but I feel like Einar's the slow burn character that's going through the book here, and that the payoff and his story is obviously still to come. But it's just full of intrigue, his story, because again, it's a very personal journey for him. He's almost like the person that's retired and trying to find his place in life again. And he's kind of all over the place, where he kind of bounces from, right, well, I'm going to do this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to worship this god. We're going to celebrate this god. And then that happens and he goes, but actually, maybe I should be doing this, or he's still trying to find it. And even in his journey back around, he's
Yeah, he's dealing with a lot of confusion, a lot of inner turmoil, and he doesn't know what he should be doing. So he's just kind of, like you said, kind of spastically going in one direction and then another, because he's lost faith in himself, because he believed in this cause so strongly at the beginning, and then he got so disaffected throughout Hellborn King that he just doesn't trust his own judgment, and then he still has the Nothanic looking to him for guidance and leadership, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you guys, because I don't even know what to tell myself. So that's exactly where he's coming from and where he's going. Yeah.
Did you guys? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, John. John.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what did you guys think of Einar from book 1 to book 2? Like, did you enjoy him more or less in this book overall? Because for me, Einar in book 1, I think, was a mid-tier character for me. He was I don't dislike any of the characters, so I just rank them by enjoyment, right? So Einar was straight in the middle, I think. And I think in book 2, for me, Einar went down quite a bit, but I think that's because a lot of the other characters had more, for me anyway, immediately interesting stories. But I think that Einar has a lot of potential in book 3 to be like mid in Hellborn King. For me, I think he was maybe my second to least favorite POV in Wrathbringer, and then I think in book 3, I really think he could be 1 or 2, just based on the path that I'm predicting.
Aaron had a comment. It was nice getting more. I'm going to mispronounce it again. More of that character in this book. Seeing him struggle and yo-yo with his emotions. And agree with Chris. Feels there is more to come. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I actually think the visions that he's going on his travel back to find Damien and the rest of the army is my favorite thing in this entire book.
Oh, interesting.
That kind of promise of what actually is going on, because obviously Madeline, etc., has her own mysticism and stuff going on, but this one's very much saying, I know you're really important here. If we don't show you, not just get there, but we show you what you're going to do when you get there, or show your role, then actually this is kind of all for naught. And it ties into this idea of this world feels sort of very controlled by external powers and external beings, even though we just see these individual POVs that's going through.
And Anonymous mentions, I like that character as he has room to grow. I'm so bad at the character name. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I think he was I kind of felt like in the first book he was our eyes into the world, like he was in the thick of it, and what he was thinking was what we might be thinking in that situation. Like things felt out of control, things were getting out of hand. Like Damien is making these decisions. I was like, wow, this. I mean, these. You know, I kind of felt like he was us, like he was our view into the world, and now he's evolving to something more than that in the story. So.
Yeah, and now you're getting to see Damien through the eyes of more than one character, because now you have two POVs in the warband who, you know, are kind of polar opposites. You got Sylvia and then you got Xander, and they both have very different motivations. And it's interesting how you get different perspectives on the Alliance based on, you know, which character you're reading.
Aaron commented the book almost felt like two parts, the fallout of one, and then placement for 3.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
And that balance of all the different tribes that were band together with Damien, that has to be this uneasy alliance that's just always on the verge of collapsing, because everyone has their own ideas and everyone wants to make those decisions. So I like that there was always this tension. There was it wouldn't take much for everything to just fall apart.
Yeah, and it came to blows at one point, and then all of a sudden it went from blows to weapons being drawn, and it almost came to bloodshed. And kind of skipping towards what happens at the end of the book, Xander ends up killing Bone Splitter, and that was something I kind of had in my head when I was writing book 1, is that I wanted to make Marvath a sympathetic character that people would really love, and then I'm gonna rip the rug out from underneath you and have him die. But I wanted it to be a glorious death. You know, he's missing one arm and he gets stabbed multiple times, and he's too angry to die. You know, but yeah, I wanted that to kind of be a shocker. You know, just a little heartbreaker towards the end of the book, because I know. I had several friends who really started to like Marvath. You know, he was also kind of the noble savage, you know, that he even though he was brutal and you would never want to cross paths with him, he had his honor. Like, he didn't approve of what happened to Madeline. He doesn't approve of taking people into slavery. You know, his whole idea is kill them clean with honor and all that. So he's a character I wanted you to really start to enjoy, and then rip him away from me at the end.
Yeah, I really thought that Marvath was going to be a POV in book 3 based on how things were going, and I really thought there was a lot more that was going to happen with him and Madeline based on the earlier Madeline chapters, and then nope.
Yeah, well, and part of that too is that I wanted people to hate Xander even more.
I think that worked.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't know what I'm going to do with him in particular. I don't know where his story is going to go. So book 3 is kind of going to be by the seat of my pants. I really don't have much plotted out. I mean, I kind of know what I want certain characters to do, but he's not one of them. So for him, it's totally up in the air. I don't know what's going to happen.
I loved his story arc. I loved getting inside his head, which is unusual because that kind of twisted malcontent within the camp is not somebody that I normally really like, but he's like kind of more mad than Damien, if that makes sense. And that way that makes him interesting to read. He's unpredictable. He could just do anything that he fancies. And his plotting and long game is a really lovely development of his character, from being the hellbent, just march straight into battle and, you know, throw men up against the wall from book 1.
And to your point, Chris, I think Damien has a code that he lives by, and Xander really doesn't have much of a code. He doesn't really have any rules he goes by.
Just one, and that's further his own agenda.
Yeah,
precisely. Damien's a man who he's on a quest for vengeance, whereas Xander's on a quest for glory and legacy. You know, he's doing this to be the most famous warlord that ever existed. So that's at the center of his motivation.
And Aaron had a comment. Still haven't made my mind up about Damien. Intentional, as we only see him from other POVs.
Yes, I want him to be sort of ambiguous. I want him to do good and bad. You're going to get to know more of why he is the way he is in the prequel. And then in book 3, you're going to get even more insight. So you may start to become more sympathetic to him, but I don't want to spoil too much of what's to come. But I do want to keep him in that love him or hate him type of phase where, you know, you can love him at one point in the book and then hate him. Like Hellborn King's a good example where a lot of people are like, yeah, Damien's an awesome character until the end. And now I hate him. You know?
That's funny because I liked him more at the end.
You would.
I know. If I don't like a character, well, I guess there's two kinds of not liking. I think we talked about this last night, but for people that weren't there last night, the two kinds of dislike would be like, I don't like the character because it's just a stupid or bad character. But then there's the other, like, I don't like them, which is like, I like that I don't like them. And I think like Joffrey Baratheon would be like a really good example of that. Like I love to hate that character. And I think that's like kind of what happened at the end of Hellborn King. I was like, oh, this guy's a bastard. I love him.
See, I had some thoughts on Damien, you see, because I was trying to get inside your head, Christopher, of why would you want Damien only seen from other people's eyes? And then I thought about Lucetta, and I thought, well, if we only seen Lucetta from other people's eyes, she would look to be of a certain type. So actually, maybe we don't see it through Damien's eyes because he is under external influence outside of the crone as well, because he spends an awful lot of time solitary in his tent, away from the crone, etc. And the woman in black, even whoever that is, could be playing both sides. So there's lots of possibilities there with Damien, which I was like, that's all these possibilities make this second book especially very, very cool.
Yeah, and I'd say the number one reason why I didn't want to make Damien a POV is because I felt like it would give you too much of an idea as to who's right and who's wrong. Yeah. And so just to kind of keep it ambiguous and kind of keep it up to your moral compass and your judgment, I wanted to keep him, sort of ambiguous and seen through other people's eyes.
And I had almost had a comment. I want to see him die horribly, which is it's a great compliment. Aaron had a comment. Xander either needs to rise to glory or be murdered brutally too. The first probably more likely, knowing your approach so far, Christopher, as it's way worse if he survives.
Duly noted. Like I said, I can't give away too much of what's going to happen with Xander because I really don't even know. I'll find out when I get further into writing the story.
I just also want to note we were talking about Xander a lot as one of the new POVs, and he was good, but I really liked Sylvia a lot personally. I just really liked reading from her point of view. I guess I thought she was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to give her a certain ferocity because she's a Ravathi shield maiden, and the Ravathi are a very hard people. So I wanted to give her that fierceness, but I also wanted to give her, a human touch, a feminine touch. I mean, she still has her humanity to her, and she fears and she loves, and like towards the end of the book when she thinks she's lost all her companions, she's just in ruins. And so, I wanted to give her that strong, powerful fierceness and everything. I didn't want to make it a caricature of itself. I still wanted to give her that other side to her. And, because even the biggest, strongest, toughest guys always have doubts, and they have thoughts in their head, which don't always line up with their external actions. And I wanted to keep that true with her as well.
Is this sadistic of me to say that I really was hoping that her companions had died?
Well, John, I think you just like it when things die.
I do.
Sylvia's such a badass too. In the beginning, towards have it on page 167, but that battle, that she just loves it, and then I like that she has those different sides of her. It's one of my favorite characters. But to pile on Xander, he's not here to defend himself. Towards the end, well, it's on page 420 in the paperback copy, when they kill the bar owners, that was
Mhm.
another reason to dislike Xander.
Or
and-
like,
yeah. Or like, yeah.
Or like, yeah.
Or like, yeah. Or love to hate. Yeah, that was pretty that was pretty brutal. But you kind of
But
saw it coming though.
But I was going to say consistent with what you thought would have happened, because the borrowers were pushing back too much, and you were like, "Oh, this is not going to end well at all. These aren't reasonable men."
No.
Yep.
did you
Yeah,
guys?
that was a particularly fun scene for me to write. I quite enjoyed that one.
Nice. I was just wondering if you guys had already stated on this podcast if you had a favorite character and who was it?
Good question. I think mine would probably be Sylvia. Well, I don't like Madeline too. So I'll stick with. Well, I don't know. Madeline does some things. I'll stick with Madeline. She's my. I'll hitch my wagon to Madeline. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll stick with her. But Sylvia's a close second.
What about you, Chris?
I'm really conflicted on this, because my favorite characters that I like as people, like Madeline, etc., I found were not the people that I couldn't wait to see a perspective of or POV from.
Mhm.
Like, as much as I hate Lucetta, every time we got a Lucetta chapter, I went, "This is really interesting," because she's devolving. She's devolving really badly, and actually, every new chapter can change the outcome of the next 5 or 6 chapters wholly. So, actually, from a reading perspective, I think Lucetta is my favorite character to read at the moment, because it seems like an awful lot centers around her madness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what
John,
about
I'm
you,
gonna-
John?
I guess it's going to be Xander.
No, actually,
Oh.
Xander I think was a mid-tier POV for me, which I know is surprising, but I don't know. I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about this. Who's my favorite character? And I think it's kind of a 50-50. If I was going to rank them, I don't know that I could put one over the other. And I think Madeline was one of them. I really enjoyed her story in this book. I don't remember what I thought of Madeline in book 1, but I think I liked her a lot more in book 2. But my second character, and this might be a hot take, judging by things I've seen Christopher post about before, and I really like Gareth.
Ooh, that is a hot take.
I know.
You're on a roll, John.
That is a hot take. I didn't expect that.
Especially
Gareth,
from you, John.
well, I'll explain why. So Gareth is like one of my favorite character archetypes. So in the first law, if you guys have read the first law, and I can't pronounce the guy's name right, I always get it wrong. I think it's Gisel, but I think I always call him Gisal. I always call him Gisal, but I think I heard Abercrombie call him Gisel before, which is madness. Anyway, I call him Gisal. I might be wrong. I might be right. I don't know. But I think Gareth has a lot in common with that type of archetype, which is like the shit character who can't or doesn't want to do anything of worth, really, and then is kind of like forced into doing it, and maybe is more of a like, I don't know if I'd call Gareth a wordsmith exactly, but someone that is maybe more clever or manipulative, or just maybe just not good at doing a lot of things. And then watching them kind of struggle, and I don't know. It's just a character archetype that's always really spoken to me, I guess. And I really liked Gareth and all the political stuff that happened. I really liked the scenes with the council, I think is what it was called, right? All the advisors, and I thought that was really interesting. I don't know. I've always been a sucker for like the political stuff anyway. And I think that's the strongest part of the book. I know that might be a hot take too. I just really like the political stuff.
That's political stuff's my favorite part of all fantasy. Like I just think it's always the way most interesting because it's a genre that is in theory all about the battle and the magic and all that kind of stuff, but actually it's the things outside that usually are the most interesting to read.
Interesting. Aaron had a comment. For me, it feels like Sylvia was born into this life, and so war is just her nature. Who said his madness was a highlight in this book? And Gareth is so self-centered.
That's what it is. The self-centered part. I love it, and I don't know why. I just think it's so fun to watch these self-centered like dickheads walk around and try and like be like in the world. It's great. I don't know. I just love it.
It's interesting that you would say that Gareth is self-centered. That wasn't really my intention of writing him. The way I wanted to write him was, chronically depressed, underdeveloped as a man. He's kind of getting the crash course in what he needs to be as a man and as a leader, a future king and everything. And he's just he just ruminates. He ruminates on all the negativity in his head, and maybe it does come across as self-centered, but he really loves his family. I mean, what family he's close to. He loves his friends. Well, the one friend that he really has, Sir Edmund.
Sure.
And he realizes that he has to be something more. He knows he needs to be, but then there's that depression that he ruminates back on, where where it's like, well, I'm not these things, but I have to be. But I don't know if I can. And then he tries, and then every time it seems like he starts gaining confidence, something comes around and knocks him down again. Like like the Queen getting murdered, like that really hit him hard. And then coming into the big battle at the end, he's starting to have all these doubts. Like, hey, can I even do this? Am I the right guy for this? So I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong for thinking he's self-centered, but again, I just love how everyone has different takes on these characters. That's exactly what I was hoping when I wrote them, to leave enough wiggle room for interpretations that you don't think that this character is solely this and this character is solely that. So
yeah, I think it's like a 50-50 split for me. So I can see like the honorable, like I'm doing this to because I need to, basically. But then I think you have the whole like drunken part to him, and like the whole like I'm nothing and I'm trying to be something, and Sir Edmund's like bitch slapping him, like shut up. And like I think that's the part that comes off as maybe a little self-centered, but I love it.
Definitely, there's a lot of self-pity with him. So yeah,
yes, definitely. And I think it's like righteous self-pity. By the way, I think a lot of it is deserved because he's kind of had a shit life.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that if it wasn't for Sir Edmund being there, he probably would have died in about page 50 of book 1. If he was left to his own devices, he would be a non-event of a character in it. And I do love bromance in books and films, actually, and all sorts. Like some of my favorite things are just these examples of wholesome bromance of like you've got one character that is a bit useless but actually needs to be useful for the story purposes, and somebody else is the guiding hand somewhere along there.
I actually have I'm going to ask Christopher about Sir Edmund and his, but I'll get to that here in a second. Aaron had a comment. I can see what you mean, Christopher. It's like when he was talking about stopping what was happening to Madeline. Nope. So I had a theory when I was reading book 1 that I wasn't sure if I should bring up, but I don't think I'm right. But there was something, I wish I would have marked it. There was a mention of Sir Edmund, like a very subtle hint that Sir Edmund may be Gareth's dad. Did I misread that, or is there something there?
I can't comment on that.
Okay, maybe
I missed that. I guess
because I read that and I thought maybe, and then it was like never mentioned again. I thought, well, maybe I just misread it, but I keep coming back to that because the way that he cares for him and he keeps saving him. There was I forget what, I think it was that there was a Charlotte was spending a lot of time with him, or there was something like when the king was gone, she was with him a lot, and there was this weird timing. So, oh, maybe there's something there. And if you're in the chat, let us know who your favorite character is. Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was a silly theory, but maybe.
It's something I've toyed with, but I don't know if something's going to come of that or not. But that was something I intentionally wanted to kind of throw out there in case I wanted to do something with that later. With book 1, there is a ton of foreshadowing and a ton of possibilities, and I think with book 2, I just kind of opened up even more possibilities. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where my writing adventures take me.
And Aaron mentions there is a hint. Edmund took care of Charlotte too.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of reminded me of Fitz in Assassin's Apprentice. That kind of relationship he has with, I can't remember the guy that's in it. The guy kind of takes him under his wing and kind of gives him in his case, a lot of tough love, as it was.
Oh man, I just read that series like a couple months ago, and I should know the name that you're looking for.
know.
But it was the Stable Master.
Yes, indeed, yeah. It was that relationship is sort of reminiscent of that in some ways, even though it's not entirely the same.
And I'm surprised we haven't talked about Charlotte yet, because
I was just gonna bring her up.
I was just gonna bring that up.
Yeah, because I was shocked. It's like, damn, you went there. I was like, wow, I didn't think it was going to go that far. But Lucetta's all in.
Yep. I definitely wanted to shock you like in the first third of the book. And that was something I had planned pretty much from the beginning. What was it? This was going to happen in book 2. And I didn't want it to be overly graphic. I wanted it to be sad. Like I wanted you while you're reading it just to say in your head, no, please, no, just stop. And
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. At first, I thought it wasn't real. I thought it might have been like a vision or dream or something that maybe she was. I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but like mentally given to by the woman in black or whatever, or shown or something. And then nope, she was dead, and I was thrilled. But I was also like, oh man, that's crazy.
Or is she?
Is she indeed? Well, for me, it was about 2 or 3 chapters previous. It just dawned on me that actually Charlotte has to die here because Gareth's not going to die. He's not there. So the only other outlet Lucetta has to try and get him back some sort of control for herself is for Charlotte to die here. So she's not worried about that as being a problem. But how it was handled was terrific. This kind of Lucetta's madness that she'd almost convinced herself that her mum gave her permission to do it. You know, that it actually was better. You'll be proud of me. You know, will you see when you look at me in a lot of years, you'll be very proud of the fact that I killed you.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely part of her psychosis is that she feels that, you know, I'm doing this terrible thing, but look at the greater good. Look at everything that's going to come of it. You know, and it's kind of hard to see, well, how is killing your parent going to lead to something great? But you know, it's kind of set up, and that, you know, through the things that the woman in black is saying to her, that, you know, this is a necessary step for you to take in order to, you know, move to the next level. And if you don't, she's going to have you arrested and killed because, you know, she knows, you know, the terrible things that you did up north to this peaceful village. And, you know, you could possibly be dragging the kingdom into a whole other war. So, you know, and then she has this sudden moment of just psychosis where she's like, I have to kill her. I can't get caught, you know?
Yeah.
I think the way that it was written too was interesting because it seems like it was foreshadowed a lot that Charlotte was like going to die, but in a way that it was like she's not gonna die. And then when it like happened, you were like, oh shit, she did.
And Aaron commented, I honestly can't pick one favorite character. It changes, and that's one of the things that feels great about the book.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Chris. Chris, you mean Birch?
Yep. Birch, that's the one, indeed. Thank you, Aaron.
Aaron comments, there was quite a few dreams and nightmares in this book. A good technique to make you questioning what's actually happening. So was that intentional, Christopher, to give, like John was mentioning, or Chris and John were mentioning about they might have been hallucinating or seen a vision. Was that intentional to make it kind of up in the air a little bit?
Absolutely, especially when towards the end, when there's the mass riots in Cardale's burning, and Lucetta decides, I need to go out there. The people need to see, the Bethard family taking charge again, and she has this whole elaborate vision in her head of the woman in black just dispatching all these people that are trying to kill her, and then she has this vision of stabbing one of the rioters with a spear. But then when she comes to, she'd been sitting there on horseback for like God knows how many hours, just staring blankly into space. So you're like, oh, okay, it's just a vision. But then when she looks down, there's droplets of blood on her dress. So then I wanted to screw with your head again that way and say, well, was it really a vision, or like, what's going on here? So I kind of wanted to throw more questions and more mystery at you with that.
And it wasn't just Lucetta, wasn't there? Was it Madeline or Charlotte? With
yeah.
the dirt in the hands, wasn't that right?
Yep, with Madeline.
Yeah. Madeline, it was, yeah.
Yep.
So it happens a couple of times, and you're like, okay, there's a link between this dream world and
it happens with
reality.
Too, but I don't
know
if there's any
I know.
physical
manifestation. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if there's any physical like proof or whatever that it occurred with Einar. I don't remember.
Well, with him, he keeps seeing reoccurring images of a lion, and obviously that's symbolic, and you'll find out later on what that symbolizes.
Oh, that's what it was, because there was a part in almost at the end of the book, I think, when he sees after kind of the visions are done or whatever. I don't know if they're done, I guess, but I don't think he'd had them for a little while anyway. And I think it's right after he left. Was it a tavern, I think, where he got attacked? And then I think he sees like the glowing eyes in the darkness or whatever. And you're like, oh shit.
Speaking of the glowing eyes, some characters see glowing eyes, but they see different colors of eyes. So I'm sure that's significant somehow later in the series.
Yeah, the woman in black, she has the orange-red sort of swirling fire in her eyes that, depending on her mood can change entirely. And I definitely put a lot of description into people's eyes for whatever reason. Like when Madeline is seeing images of this figure in black, the one cold blue starlight, glowing in the eye. I wanted to really emphasize that because Madeline is described as having steely blue eyes, but then she's seeing this figure that towards the end, when she's writing her farewell letter to the Gareth, she realizes, well, that this isn't a ghost or a spirit. This is me. Like I've been seeing this future image of myself, and then she cuts her hair off, and then she dons the black clothing, and then she rides off and disappears into the night.
Yeah,
so for her, that vision became a reality.
I don't know if this was just me being a conspiracy theorist or reading too much into something, but when I read that part, I think that was Madeline's last chapter. I was like, oh my God, is she the woman in black? I don't know why. It just really made me think of her.
All things are possible, John. This is the thing. And I think that's one of the things that makes the book cool. Like, there's nothing really resolved other than there's loads more intrigue. There's loads more possibilities, and everybody's sort of, like I say, in the control of something else or in another plan.
Yeah, and I did like Madeline's journey too. That she's not just okay. She's dealing with all the fallout of what happened to her. And I like that she's just feels like doesn't have a place, and she has this almost like survivor's guilt. Like she survived it. Like, I shouldn't be here. Kind of, I don't have anywhere to go. How can anyone love me? So I forgive her for doing what she did to Gareth. I mean, Gareth is, so I don't blame her. But I do wonder what would have happened if she stayed. But I think it's more interesting that she left.
Right, and even though she's back on the battlefield, she still isn't physically recovered yet, and obviously not emotionally or psychologically recovered. But I see, I had to walk this really fine line where I knew I wanted to have her at the head of the cavalry charge at the big battle at the end. But how can she go from one extreme, being bedridden near death, to that? So I had to walk a really fine line where, yes, she's still capable, but she's not at the same time. Like after she does the joust, she just collapses, and they have to carry her. Titan and Conrack have to carry her back and hope nobody just saw what happened. Because they're trying to build her into a standard. Something other than herself, something bigger than herself. And so, even though she's this thing that's inspiring the men, she's still very much beaten down and still not healed from what happened to her, and maybe she'll never be fully healed from what happened to her.
It's quite the ordeal.
We're 45 minutes into this recording, and most people that I've seen's favorite character is Titan, and we haven't even mentioned him yet.
That's true. I do see in a lot of comments and stuff on Twitter or reviews that everyone really likes Titan, and yeah, he's fine. I don't have a problem with Titan. It's just I personally like a lot of characters more than Titan. Although actually Titan in this book, Wrathbringer, was a lot more interesting to me. I think in Wrathbringer, I mean in Hellborn King, I was like, I don't care about Titan, but compared to the other characters, when I say I don't care about him, I still enjoyed reading him. It's just something about him in Wrathbringer really seemed to click more with me, I guess. I just found him more interesting in Wrathbringer, and he kind of, maybe it was his personality just kind of developed more. I think we didn't see him that much in Hellborn King,
right?
And so it almost seemed like he was the stereotypical grouchy
brute,
pissant.
Yeah.
And then in Wrathbringer, there's a lot more depth to him, so he's kind of more, for lack of a better word, more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he came in pretty late in Hellborn King, and you get a certain idea of him, but then, after what happened at Castle Morden, that sort of broke him even further. And so then you see, at the beginning of Wrathbringer, he's struggling to survive. He's just having a very hard time reconciling what happened. Hey, I left and Madeline stayed and died. Well, he thinks that she died, and he's dealing with all this guilt, and he's just kind of drifting through the world until the Blackthorn end up catching up with him, and then he gets taken into custody, and he goes on a very bizarre journey throughout the book where he's a condemned man ready to die to now all of a sudden he's conscripted into the Royal Guard, and then when he realizes that Madeline is still alive, that changes him too, and he rediscovers his sense of purpose. Hey, I need to keep her safe because she's the one friend I got in this world. And throughout the book, Conrack is kind of an interesting character. He developed and kind of grew on me as I was writing him. So he started out as really hostile towards Titan. Hey, you're a coward and a deserter, and you deserve to die because you have no honor. And the more he gets to know Titan, the more he starts to kind of warm up to him. But there's still kind of this fraternal hazing that goes on. He still isn't entirely friendly towards Titan, but they're starting to develop a bit of a friendship as well. And their adventures in book 3 are going to be pretty interesting.
I think Conrack is the best non-POV character, personally.
Really
I wanted to add a lot of mystery with him. He knows a lot more than he's letting on, and he kind of slow drips it throughout the book.
Oh, can I amend that? Conrack was second favorite non-POV. I forgot Marvath Bone Splitter.
Right. Okay.
Marvath was great.
It's another loose bromance as well between Titan and Corvac as well.
I think you mentioned it, Christopher, that in the first book, Titan is kind of just thrown into this situation, but in book 2, he has purpose. He has something to do. So that might be why people enjoy him, because now he has motivations. In the first book, it's just surviving this situation he's in, but in the second book, he has purpose. It's something I do.
Yeah, and then the battle at the end, he absolutely goes berserk, and he just has his moment of glory where he just completely loses control, and that was a lot of fun to write. In fact, that battle, I didn't quite know how I wanted to write it. I had just had the artwork made for the book, and I was looking at that, and I'm like, God, I should write the battle scene around the artwork. So the artwork actually inspired that whole going berserk and just having at the enemy type of moment.
Do you know who's going to be on the cover of book 3?
I do. I know who's going to be on the cover of the next 3 books.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Interesting.
And I have the titles, but I'm not going to release anything just yet.
I was hoping to get the next one. But... Can we take a guess?
You are more than welcome to guess.
We know you can't say if we're right or not, but I think the third book has to be Madeline on the cover. That's just my guess.
Any other guesses?
Well, first book was Damien, and the second one, actually was it Titan? I never actually figured out who the second. Okay, so
yeah, that's Titan.
So Titan.
Einar, I'll go for as a conflicting thing. I think you see if Madeline's, because she's sort of in this transition period of cutting her braid off, her ponytail off, and kind of getting darker and darker, like almost like turning into a monster is sort of mooted, or deal with the death god. So I'd go for Einar as having the next one.
Yeah, my real choice. What I think is going to happen and what I want to happen are two different things. So I think Einar will be on the cover. I want the cover to be Gareth. That would be, that would be my. And I think it could be possible. But honestly, given the trajectory of all the characters, I mean, if I was going to guess, I think Madeline. This is a wild guess, but I think Madeline's on the cover of the last book. So I think maybe we got Einar and Gareth for the next 2, and then I think Madeline's last. I just have really high expectations for what Madeline's going to do, and I, for some reason, think she's going to make it to the end. So, obviously, you can't confirm any of these things, but it is fun to speculate and guess.
Or maybe Lucetta is the cover of the next book.
My God, how did I forget? Obviously, Lucetta's going to be on a cover somewhere. So this is what's really going to happen. I have Christopher all figured out. We have we have like 4 major characters, right? We got Lucetta, Madeline, Einar, and Gareth that we're talking about.
And there's only 3 books left in the core series. Yep.
I know, I figured you out. So Lucetta is going to definitely be on the cover of one of them, right? So that takes her out of the game. I think that Madeline's also confirmed. I think I'd be stunned if she's not. So we'll take Madeline off the board. Einar or Gareth, one of them dies. That's
or both.
No, you can't kill both of them. That would be mad.
I can do anything I want.
I don't because we don't want Gareth to die. So sorry, Einar.
I was actually, John. I think I'm gonna be. I don't think Madeline's gonna make it.
Really,
at some point.
That's interesting. I think she is a shoo-in for the last book. Now, I mean, obviously he might surprise me, but I think Madeline is like. Didn't you say in the Hellborn King podcast, Steve? Didn't you say that was it the Hellborn King or was it the Wrathbringer that you thought was going to be Madeline?
Yes.
So she can't die if she's the Wrathbringer?
She'll die at the end.
I don't think so.
In a very satisfactory manner.
Maybe.
This sort of Darth Vader-esque thing where it goes dark, becomes dark, and then comes back for redemption.
I still think Madeline's going to become she's going to become Damien. She's going to go off the deep end. Eventually, she's just going to be...
So, that's a curious question, then. I want you to elaborate. Do you think she's going to become the Damien Dreadfire of the other side, and then they're going to have, like, these 2 crazy leaders kind of, like, going at it? or do you think she's going to like leave her side and maybe do something different?
I think she'll stay on the same side. She's just going to be driven by hate and revenge and just keep getting darker and darker and darker. And something will happen at the end. She'll either sacrifice herself or she'll die doing something very heroic at the end that will semi bittersweet ending.
Maybe Lucetta will possess her.
Yeah. Maybe Lucetta, maybe she'll smother her too.
Yeah.
Aaron had a comment. Well, I just have to say Sylvia now. That was one of the names that went through my mind. Sylvia is another possibility.
Yeah, that's possible. I have a question for Christopher.
Sure.
I know you haven't really written much of book 3, and you said that you're not really planning it. It sounds like, and you might not be able to answer this, and if you can, that's fine. Do you plan on having any new POVs?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. That's all. That's
I think
cool.
the epilogue confirmed that a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. So you're gonna see a POV from that side. From the get go, with book 1, I was gonna introduce a Droithian point of view, which up until now you've only ever seen them, through the eyes of other characters. They're sort of wanderers, merchants is where they're kind of taking up their fortune. Mercenaries,
What's that guy's name?
Pavlos.
Yep.
Pavlos and his men are Droithians. And in book 1, I was going to include a POV from their side, which is way southwest on the map. But I wanted to keep book 1 very intimate. I wanted to keep it just between these two factions. And then I was going to include that same POV, which I actually have 3 chapters of that POV completed. I'm going to have to go back and revise it because my writing's improved since then. But I was going to put that in book 2, and then I decided, no, it's just not right yet. So I'm thinking I might introduce it in that other POV in book 3, possibly if it feels right. So you could potentially be seeing 2 factions that you haven't seen yet in book 3, possibly, but you're going to see the one.
Cool. I forgot about Pavlos as another really good non-POV character, by the way.
Yeah, he's a very slimy. Some people would say manipulative. I've had friends who have read the book and say he seems like he's kind of, even though he's playing ball, it seems like he has his own agenda, or there's something more to him, which I thought was interesting.
It seems like he's taking, I was going to say advantage, and I think that might be the wrong word, but it almost seems like he is using Lucetta almost somehow. I don't know that taking advantage is the correct term, but it does seem like he clearly has some thoughts or maybe just nefarious plans, just away from how he responds to her, I think. I don't know how I can explain this better, I guess, but I just suspect him of a lot of bad things.
Yeah. He's the character for me I hope meets the grisliest death.
Really? Why?
Because he deserves it more than anything. He starts off as a mercenary, so he is basically the gun for hire, and is only there for profit and using situations and people to further his intake, which is sort of what the epilogue sets up as well as the motivations of those people. So, yeah, death to Pavlos.
I'd like to see him live for a while.
So, Chris, do you hate Pavlos so much that you like him, or do you just want to see him die? Is it a Joffrey situation?
I just think he's building such a legacy of mistrust, even amongst the reader, as to his motivations, that he just deserves long term to get a horrific, really grisly death. Meet his maker. He's not going to trip and fall down the stairs and bang his head and oh dear. He's going to be manipulated and be in a situation where I imagine he feels like he's the smartest person in the room and nothing can stop in his way, and then ultimately falls short.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, Chris, but I have a hard time wanting that until we kind of have proof. I feel like the proof is obvious, but and coming, but we haven't actually seen anything to like confirm that I don't know what Christopher is going to do. I can only assume that we're right based off of hundreds of books read, and it just seems very obvious that he's going to have something that proves that we want him to die. But so far we haven't seen any of that, and I'm really excited to see like the shit that he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be clear. I'm in no rush for it to happen. I just desperately look forward to the fact that at some stage before the end of this series, he will meet the most gruesome of all deaths that there will be, or at least the one that whether gruesome's the right word, or the one that's satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
More than Xander.
I kind of like Xander.
Weird.
Yeah, I kind of like Xander because I'm not wedded to the idea that the North are the baddies in this in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not necessarily sold on the idea that Damien is an ultimate good. He may well end up to be, but I think there's enough motivation for both sides to say that the conquest and greatness and ruling a kingdom and being a successful warlord is at the heart of both the Batantians and the North, here in the end. So they should equally have that opportunity. And I kind of like that Xander just threw his own countrymen to the wolves for his own gain. Yes. I like that bit.
You said that the Northmen aren't bad or good, which we agree on. But I think that to say that Xander is not good or bad is a gross statement to make. I think he's very obviously like the worst person ever.
Well, he is, but
but you like him, so it's okay.
But I like him, yeah. That's it. I like his dastardliness. I like the fact that he isn't going to play by the rules, and the fact that there really is no honor. It's not driven by Damien's want for vengeance. That's his drive. Xander's out for himself, and I like the fact that you can poke the bear a little bit, and he'll kind of stand outside windows, listen to conversations, and kind of use that as a quick repartee at the end. When he's off on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He is pro cannibal too, so
yeah.
Aaron had a comment. Yeah, Lucetta seems to be taken in by Pavlos. He's been sly in gaining her trust.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah's here. After reading Gene Wolfe, I have no expectations when I read now. More of a passive reader, I guess you could say. And Mustache Twirler, I like him. I like him a bit. Guilty pleasure. Very mustache twirler, yeah. Good way to describe it.
Mm. Yeah, he's another character where I don't know where he's ultimately going to go, but I have a lot of ideas, and so we'll just see what happens. I think there's a lot more in store for him.
And Aaron had a comment. In this world, I see good and good. In this world, I see good or evil, just everything in between. All the characters are morally gray.
So I'm guessing that they forgot a don't in there. I don't see good or evil.
Yeah,
but I would disagree because I think Xander is clearly evil. I think Lucetta is clearly evil. I think
he doesn't see that though.
No, right. I think Gareth, while I do think he's very
involved.
Very self-centered. I think he's still really like a good character.
Gareth is trying to do the right thing though, and he is putting himself out in the battlefield, not knowing much of.
And he didn't do anything bad.
Well, no, I think Lucetta is more of a tragic character than anything else because she isn't really bad. She's trying to.
She just murdered her mom.
She's being manipulated though by the woman in black. So. Is she evil if she thinks that she's doing this for the right reasons?
I'm going to convince you to murder your mom, and then you're not evil. What?
I'm not saying she shouldn't. I'm not saying she didn't. She shouldn't have murdered. She should have murdered her mom. But
everything bad I do from now on is because I was manipulated, so I'm still great.
We don't actually know that the woman in black is actually even a thing, other than in Lucetta's psyche. Really, do we? It could literally just be her split personality.
Like, yeah. Like
what if
Gollum?
what the woman in black is saying is true though?
I don't know that even if it's true, you should be murdering all your family.
And this come from the guy with,
hey, oh, let's set something straight here, okay? Just because I like all the murder and the death and stuff does not mean that I think it makes it right or good.
And Jeremiah's commented, Lucetta did some evil shit for sure. She wanted to kill everyone in the city. Well, you're killing my case here, guys. But
Well, yeah, I would hope so.
Well, everybody that was rioting and like there's this cult that sprang up because when the queen gets brought back to Cardale, they're like, there's no signs of decomposition or anything. Like she looks like she's being like divinely preserved, and some religious fanatics in the city kind of take advantage of that, and they whip the mob up into a frenzy. I did draw some inspiration behind the Nika riots. For those of you who know Roman history, and back in those days, it was quite easy to whip a mob up into a frenzy and burn the city down. And so I kind of wanted to write a scene like that. And in Lucetta's mind, it's like, well, all these people that are destroying my family's city need to die because they're doing bad things. They're burning this down and they're causing all this chaos. So yes, they deserve to die. So even with that, she feels that she's justified.
Couple of comments. Aaron commented, just predicting Gareth is going to do something bad.
I hope so. Do it all.
Jeremiah comments, we shall see. I'm definitely looking forward to see where things go. The story is really engaging.
Well, thank you.
And our friend Matt, congrats on 5,000 subscribers, Matt. Doing a great job over there.
Congrats, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, good job. Matt says, I don't have much to add here other than that as a bald man, Christopher's glorious mane is making me angry. Just sitting there mocking me.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Matt.
What if you weren't bald? Would it then not matter?
Oh man.
Matt has a good beard going. He has a good
Yeah,
good
sure.
beard.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Yeah. Matt, don't worry. You're still sexy.
Jeremiah asks, Matt, what if it's a wig?
How dare you?
I
What an insult.
yeah.
Maybe Christopher is secretly bald. You
Oh,
guys are
boy.
like bald brothers. That'd be great.
Yeah, so we're gonna start this conspiracy theory now that Christopher G. Brenning is really bald.
Yeah, start pulling on your hair now, or we'll
Yeah,
spread
okay,
this.
all right, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
he's
it's
blue.
all- You just
Yeah.
have like your mustache is all glued on, and you just like
Yeah.
take it off when you're done.
All right,
Just
yeah.
like-
So,
yeah.
This is so nobody recognizes you in real life. This is
Yeah.
genius.
To be
And,
fair, I think like Christopher is what I picture of the Northman.
yeah, more or less.
And Jeremiah says, "What if not is?" Aaron says, "Christopher, character with long hair on the future cover, just to mock Matt more."
Mental
Can
note
you-
made.
The new POV character is called Matt, right? And on the cover, that's who we've got.
There you go. There's your second new POV for book 3.
Don't tempt me.
It'd be an
Yeah.
interesting prologue or epilogue character to kill off.
Oh, there you go. Not bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all these like Norse sounding names, and then there's Matt.
Yeah, exactly. You could change it like Matt
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, I like that. I like
There
that.
you go. And we do find out a lot about the history of this in the world too. In this one, drips, but not a ton. But we'd start. Seems like the world expands a lot in this one. Start learning a lot more about the history and the different factions and about the order. That was really interesting too.
Yeah, I didn't want to beat you over the head with lore and world building because ultimately this series is more about the characters and their story and the general plot. So I wanted to give enough world building and lore to make it feel big and make it feel real. But like I said, I didn't want to beat you over the head with it. So it is kind of just slow dripped. And it'll probably be that way throughout the rest of the series.
Jeremiah has a comment. Given how good the books are, I wonder if Chris tried shopping it around to publishers, and did no one really want to publish it? You don't have to answer if you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. So when I wrote the Hellborn King, I wanted to get traditionally published. For those of you that don't know, you don't go straight to a publisher. You have to query a literary agent, and then the agent picks you up, gives you suggestions, you polish your manuscript, then the agent shops you to publishers. So I spent 7-8 months trying to find a literary agent. I got about 50 rejections. No agent was even interested in looking at the manuscript or even a partial manuscript. In fact, I only had one agent that gave me a rejection that was somewhat personalized, because usually it's just a copy and paste form rejection, like, "Dear author, thank you for your submission," something like that. So the one suggestion I got from an agent, they said that my prologue for book 1 was starting in the wrong spot, which it was. The prologue that you read in the Hellborn King wasn't the original prologue. I had started it sort of where Alfred is waking up in the aftermath of the battle. Whereas after I got that feedback, I was like, okay, I need to back this up to before the ambush happens. So, but yeah, I mean, I tried going that route. It didn't work. So I decided for my own mental health, because the querying process is very demoralizing and depressing. And I got very depressed because I was like, well, I just poured my heart and soul into this thing and nobody wants to touch it. Should I just shelve it and write another book? So I got very depressed and down about it. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to, I'm going to self-publish it. I'm going to get, I'm just going to do it all myself and put it out into the world. And as ugly and imperfect as it may be, I felt I needed to do it. And so I did. And, I've been very successful going the self-pub route. So I think I'm going to stick with it. Because if a publisher is interested in picking this up, I'm going to lose a lot of creative control. I'm not going to be able to decide my covers. The editors can change whatever they want, and I'm kind of at their mercy then. So if an agent wants to pick me up or a publisher wants to pick me up, it would have to be for something else, for a different series or a different book. But I think this is going to be my self-published baby, pretty much.
It's interesting with both of you on that. Actually, if you had been published or otherwise, you wouldn't have had the growth and journey yet, because both of you have talked a lot about growth from book 1 to book 2, and then obviously subsequently onto your future books. It's kind of like your training grounds in an awful lot of ways, to have the freedom to make mistakes or to make your own mistakes, or things that you wanted to improve on, or whatever it was going forward. So it's and I also think, specifically talking about Hellborn King Saga, I just feel like book 1 and book 2 are almost completely separate genre of book in some way. The fantasy elements really stack on quite heavily in book 2, whereas they're not there as much in the first one, although it's kind of promised. So actually going to a publisher with that kind of freedom to kind of change and grow the story and the characters, I don't think would be evident until you kind of have a series to say to a publisher or an agent, here you go. What do you think of all of this once I'm done with it, rather than just a book 1?
Yeah, maybe.
I was just going to say that querying is, even before you actually submit, you have to abide by each individual agent's requirements, and they're all always a pain in the ass. And so even before you submit, and submitting sucks because you have to wait at least like 3 months before you even have a hope of hearing back from most of them. Even before you get into that waiting period, you have to submit differently to each agent, and just doing the work to do that was enough to stop me. Like I think I queried for like a week or two, and then I was like, fuck this, I'm out. And I don't remember how many people I queried. I think it might have been 20, and I think I heard back from 5. And they were all, like Christopher said, the copy pasted email. Sorry, we're not interested. And I think another thing that people forget about with querying is that you if you're not querying for what the market is wanting at that specific moment. You can have the best book in the world. I mean, you could have the next Harry Potter, but if it's not Game of Thrones, which is what they're looking for, you're screwed. And I think that's why self-publishing has been doing so well in the last few years, because there's all these different stories and genres and stuff that are, and kind of a lot of self-published authors kind of focus on more like unique or like niche stories that would never get traditionally published until you know, some of them do because the publishers reach out. But yeah, querying in general is very demoralizing, so props to Christopher for making it as long as he did. I did not have that kind of patience.
Yeah. And like I said, that's why Hellborn King has its blemishes, you know, because I couldn't afford an editor. It was way too much, and I mean, I already put all this on credit cards anyways to do it. So I had the first chapter and the prologue edited, and I just kind of did it myself. And yeah, you know, I mean, I missed a few things. It's not as polished as it could be, but I had to do it. I had to do it for me, and so. When you read Hellborn King in particular, that's kind of my therapy in a way. You know, you're kind of seeing me doing something for myself that I desperately needed to do. So both these books. I mean, I had so many personal struggles, especially writing Wrathbringer too. So there is just so much heart and soul that I poured into it. And it just thrills me to know when people say how much they love the series and how much they can't wait for the next one, because I no kidding, I poured countless hours, blood, sweat, and tears, so much love into this, and I'm just so immensely grateful to everybody.
I think I think that people don't realize how expensive like self-publishing is. It's really like a rich man's game to do it like and do it well. If you want a good cover, if you want good editing, that's like Christopher said, that is expensive to sink money into editing. I went the opposite route as Christopher. I spent way too much in editing, like $8,000. So and I don't think I got $8,000. Like, I think I could have spent way less than that and gotten a good product. But I was like really paranoid that if I didn't edit like a lot, then I would have a really like just trash book. You're right. So, but that's not the case. I switched editors, and I have Sarah Chorn now, and that was like $1,500. So to go from 8,000 down to that, I think that it's very important for I know this is kind of derailing, but it's very important for aspiring writers to realize that you don't have to sink like a ton of money into editing. If you can afford it, I always would advocate, you know, get some editing done, but you don't have to spend your life savings on one book. And it's very easy to do because, you know, if you get an expensive cover that you can go to I've heard of people spending $4,000 or $5,000 on a cover. Wow. And that's a lot. I spent $1,800, which is on the high end, but if you get like a traditionally published artist, then they can charge like stupid amounts. And then if you get someone that is really considers themselves like an amazing editor, you can be paying some high premiums. So I think definitely if you're going to do it, reach out to someone who's already done it, and they might be able to kind of guide you, because otherwise you might go down some not great roads.
And I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody gonna
No.
Aaron had a comment. Fair play to you, Christopher and John, for finding another route and not giving up. You can make big bucks in the adaptation route.
No, that's the goal.
Yeah,
that's the
us readers are certainly grateful. And Jeremiah said, has a comment. Have you thought about something like Indiegogo or Self-Pub for Self-Pub to help raise money to fund certain costs of things?
I've thought about it. I don't know. I just feel weird about it personally. I mean, even though with that, if you donate, you're going to get something back. I don't know. I just still feel kind of weird about it. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that'll change with future projects or something. But as of right now, I think I'm just going to keep funding it myself. In the last 90 days, I've made half of the royalties that I've made since April 2021 when I first published. So.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Things have been going very well. Wrathbringer is just about paid off. I'm still paying off quite a bit from the Hellborn King, but I mean, as long as the readers keep supporting me, I'll keep doing it. I mean, that at the end of the day, if I can break even, I'd be happy.
I think I agree with you on that. It feels weird to ask for money for that. But I think another thing to think about is most self-published authors, when they first start, they don't have an audience. So,
right,
who's going to fund it? There's not, unless you have like some wild idea that somehow takes off. I mean, that's really hard to do though without an audience.
Yeah.
And then you end up paying to advertise the Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever, and then you end up spending more just trying to get it out there. And it's if you don't have an audience, it's really hard to actually succeed with that, unless you are lucky and you do it when Brandon Sanderson makes 42 million and then pays for everyone's Kickstarter. So there is the 1% chance that maybe that'll happen.
Yeah.
Your next book, Christopher, make sure that Brandon Sanderson is running a Kickstarter.
Yes.
The fun by itself.
And Aaron said, I guess even in the editing game, there are some untapped talents in smaller companies. Lots of editors out there. You hear a lot these days about that. Unless you're a Sanderson, traditional publishers won't be pushing your books anyway. Yeah, that's what's really disappointing. You fight to get a traditional published, with a publishing company, and then they don't push your book, and then it just sits on the shelf and no one knows about it.
It's ironic because they spend millions to push something like the next Game of Thrones book, but everyone's buying that anyway. Why would you need to advertise it? It's weird.
But you gotta imagine that would be worse. Imagine you did get the traditional publishing deal. You think you're made it. You think you're going to do something, and it's one of the books that sells 20 copies. I think the only thing that you can think in that case is my book was trash. If you know what I mean, it had every advantage that you'd thought of at that time, and it's not necessarily the case. It just didn't find or get pushed to find an audience. Whereas a lot of you guys this has been a very long run thing. You put your book out there, and it's sat maybe unread for months and months, and then finds its audience, at some stage in time because of other reasons,
Yeah, I saw a statistic that said that the vast majority of published books, even traditionally published, they only sell like 250 copies in their entire lifetime. And that's if you're lucky. I mean, before we went live, Steve, you were saying something about how like 12 copies is what's like usually sold for a lot of these books that get publishing contracts. It's like, man, can you imagine that?
Congratulations to Christopher and I. We are better than the average.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to these guys before we went live. Is I'm closing in on 1,500 copies, and I mean, you see some guys on Twitter, they post screenshots of their Amazon dashboard, and it's goose eggs just for months, and it's that could have very easily been me, and I'm very fortunate. I'm very grateful to everybody that's picked up the series and has enjoyed it and is invested in it as they are, and that everybody loves the characters and has all these ideas of where the story could go. That's exactly what I was hoping would happen. And so I'm very, very thankful to everybody.
You got us. Jeremiah says parent distribution applies to books as well.
It's it's just shocking how few books are actually sold, even traditionally, on average.
And I know it must be weird as a creator to ask, to crowdfund or to have like a, that kind of campaign. But as a reader, if you guys said, look, I can't swing the cost, I'm going to start a Kickstarter, I'd throw a few bucks in. If that meant we get more of your work, then I wouldn't like, okay. So.
Well, as long as people spread the word, leave, good reviews on Amazon and Goodreads, and just help grow the fan base. That'll be enough. That'll be enough for me, to keep going. That's the best way to support my work, John's work, everybody's work is leave reviews and tell your friends.
Yeah, talk about it.
Spread the
Invite
word.
us on podcasts.
Yeah.
I got you covered there. Jeremiah says, meaning a small percentage of books have a huge proportion of total sales.
Correct.
And also to follow up on what Christopher was saying about supporting us, a lot of readers don't realize that rating on Goodreads is not as helpful as Amazon. The Amazon rating and review is the #1 thing you can do to support an author, because the algorithm on Amazon actually matters for an author, because that's where we get our sales. And the more reviews and ratings we have, the more likely Amazon is to push it. The Goodreads, it's nice, but it doesn't actually do anything for like sales and stuff like that. Well, at least it doesn't right now. I know that Amazon is starting to integrate Goodreads reviews and ratings on Amazon, which is weird. But yeah, so maybe in the future that will. But as of right now, review on Amazon, and that will make every single author super happy, especially indie authors.
Nice. So sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, a question I've always wanted to know, obviously, people will read a lot of your books on Kindle Unlimited, right? Is it significantly more advantageous if you want to support the author to buy the physical copy as opposed to reading in Kindle Unlimited?
If you're talking in terms of royalties, it's kind of a wash. If you read the entire book on Kindle Unlimited, you get the same royalty you would as if it was a physical sale. The only thing is that with Kindle Unlimited, it doesn't move you up and down on the rankings.
Right. It's book sales that do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So book sales, every time you get a book sale, it automatically jumps you up to 125,000 range on the Amazon rankings list, automatically, and then it'll just start dropping accordingly. But if you're getting consistent sales, it'll just keep moving you higher up the rankings. So yeah, I mean, I would also recommend for indie authors who don't have a big following, sign your book up for Kindle Unlimited, because if people aren't sure that they want to spend the money to buy a physical copy, they can just read it. They pay their monthly subscription, they can read it, you'll still get royalties from it, and it's a great way to make money. I've had about 75,000 pages read total on mine, and it's brought in a nice little chunk of change, so I would recommend it.
I think for digital royalties earned for me, I think Kindle Unlimited is 1/3 of what I've earned. And whether there's one part I just wanted to add to what Christopher said about the amount of royalties you get. So the longer your book is, the more money you would earn from Kindle Unlimited, because you get paid per page, and the lower the digital cost of the book, the more impactful the Kindle Unlimited money would be. So my book is 99 cents. So I actually make a lot more if someone reads it on Kindle Unlimited, because I think a full book digitally is 540 pages, and I think that's roughly $3. So I think it's kind of a range. The longer your book is, obviously the more money you make, and then the larger the longer the book is compared to how much the book is priced, it kind of changes how much you make. So anything over maybe $3.99 will probably net the author more money. And then physical books, that's a whole different conversation, because that's based on the distributor that they use and the amount of money that that it costs to print, and then all of that good stuff. But honestly, yeah, if you want to get your name out there, like Christopher said, Kindle Unlimited, I think that a lot of people also use that to read like a little bit of it and see if they like it. Even though they could do the preview, I just don't think they do. And then they like buy it. Like I'll get a day when someone will read like, because we can track the pages that they read every day. I'll get like 1 page read, and then I'll get like a sale. Like I'm not sure if that's the same person. I don't really know, but
that's a hell of a first page, though. Jeez.
Yeah.
well, I think I don't know if it's like the 1 page. Of course, that could also be someone just opening it to see if it works.
Yeah.
I don't really know how Amazon tracks it. It's kind of funny the way it works, and I'm not sure how accurate it is because I'll refresh it at like 12:01, and it refreshes at midnight. Now, obviously, the time around the world is different, but at 12:01, every once in a while, this is not a common experience. I'll have like 500 pages already read. I'm like, what? Obviously, there's probably some catch up somewhere, but yeah, it really helps get your book out there a lot more, from what I've seen anyway. And I heard that they actually did help your ranking a tiny bit with the page reads, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah,
I heard it's like a fraction of an amount of like an actual sale. So I don't know if that actually helps.
And Jeremiah brings up a great point. I love the covers for this series. So I'm buying physical copies. They look good on the shelf. They do look good on the shelf.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Very sturdy.
They are fat books. They're heavy.
Yeah, they are heavy. They have heft, but they, like we were talking about earlier, they are quick reads in a good way. They're easy to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to get your guys' thought on the big battle at the end of the book. It spans over 5 chapters. I wanted to kind of push myself to see if I could manage that sort of POV switching and still keep it all coherent. I talked with Blaze, Under the Radar SFF books, and he, I asked his opinion on it when I was on his podcast, and he said he loved it, and it was easy for him to follow. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I had no problems keeping up. Yeah, very smooth.
I actually prefer battles that are written in that type of way, where it's like multi-POV switching. I think it adds a lot more to a battle. So I personally really liked it.
It also really helps to place the geography of the battle. I think when you switch those POVs, because I've read battles that kind of go on, from the same POV for ages, and they're moving through it, but you as a reader don't get any sense of where they're moving from or to, unless you actually see it from somebody else's point of view looking. So I thought the battle was great. I really did. I got a sense of actually the layout of it, actually the left, the right, the flank, and the cavalry, the march of everything that moves in and around, and actually never really felt lost in it. How they turned the tide of battle, how one side thought they were winning, and then actually realized that they weren't at any given stage. And I thought, that's cool, because sometimes in battles with me, I tend to start skimming after a certain point. You tend to kind of go, oh yeah, okay, so this person's fight, okay, right. Yeah. You kind of speed up your reading and go through, but it didn't really happen here. And I can't remember whether you shortened the chapter length or anything to go along with that, but I did. You did?
Yep. Yeah, I kept all the chapters maybe like around the 2,500 word mark, which is pretty short. Just for that reason, I don't want you to skim a chapter because it's fight. So I wanted to include fighting that was necessary to establish the pace of the battle, the stakes. Like Sylvia's POV. When she's in the middle and the pikes are coming in and they're just getting massacred by these pikes, like I wanted to kind of establish that desperation, like, oh my God, we're losing this. And then you switch to, like I didn't want it to get stale, because like Blaze was saying, I wished it would have been a little bit longer, and fair enough.
I disagree.
I didn't want it just to drag on and you're like, oh my God, okay, when's this going to be over? So I kept the whole battle in a pretty compact package, and that battle is kind of a test for things that are to come, because there are going to be a couple other battles in the series that are going to be mega massive in scale. So just a little spoiler for what's to come.
Yeah, a lot of it was also about watching the battle rather than fighting the battle. An awful lot of the description was like, from sitting back, that kind of bird's eye, not even a bird's eye view, but the kind of sitting back watching develop from far, which I thought's an interesting way to do it as well.
Yeah, I wanted to have sort of a blend of that. So like when Gareth is sitting there on horseback, he's watching the battle and he's kind of waiting, like, is it our turn yet? Is it our turn? And then eventually he does get into the combat. But yeah, like sort of you're getting the 30,000 foot view, but then you're getting the first person boots on the ground view. And I kind of wanted to switch between that, so you get that sense of where you are and what's happening all around you.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah commented, "It was great. Love the battle with multiple POVs. I felt like the switching sped up as the battle went on. Not sure if that was just me."
All the chapters are fairly consistent in length. I think they're all about Titans at the very end. I think is a little bit longer because that's when the battle's wrapping up. But I think that just could be the writing, just the intensity of it, and you're just kind of flipping through the pages a bit faster as the battle progresses.
And Aaron comes back. Sorry, I was writing my Amazon review.
You're an American hero.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yes, the chapters felt quicker in the battle, like that they were multi-POV, pacey, and gritty.
Awesome. That's exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I do, and it adds to the scope too of the battle because you could get, it feels more, I don't want to say epic, but it feels more epic. It feels like there's a lot going on. And you get the different views, and like Chris said, the one side thinking, okay, where the tide's turning, and then it doesn't, and everyone has this different perspective. So yeah, I thought I didn't feel like it was over long or anything at all. I thought it was really easy to keep up.
Question for Christopher:
Sure.
You're writing the third book. Are you kind of planning on keeping the chapter length similar to like Wrathbringer in like the shorter chapters?
I think so, unless a particular chapter calls for being longer.
Right.
I feel it's easier for me as the author, and I feel it's easier for the reader to kind of have those shorter chapters. And as long as people aren't feeling like they're being cheated out of a particular POV, like, oh, well, that chapter just ended. I was hoping for more. So yeah, I mean, I would like to keep it at a fairly lean length as far as the chapters go. Yeah, absolutely.
I like that because I really liked that more about the Wrathbringer personally. Like, it's funny. We seem to have very similar writing techniques, I think. Your prologues really kind of reminded me of my prologues. A lot of your chapter lengths are similar to me. A lot of different beats that you took reminded me of like things that I would kind of consider writing as well. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to borrow. I think you guys have noticed this with the books, like especially with certain POVs, they borrow from certain other elements. Like Lucetta has horror elements in it, and so for the pacing, I wanted to kind of use thriller pacing, where the chapters do tend to be shorter. They start off with maximum tension at the opening, maximum tension at the end. So then when you get to the end of the chapter, you're like, well, just one more, like because you just want to know more, and it just sucks you in, and you just keep moving. So yeah, thriller pacing, just keeping it fast. I know some people say that the books are kind of a slow burn, which is interesting because I try to write it where every chapter has substance and it moves. But everybody has a different take on things, and that's another thing I really appreciate too. Some people say, "Oh man, the book just flew," and other people say, "Well, it was kind of slow in the beginning or in the middle or whatever." And it's like, God, it's just so interesting to me to hear all these different perspectives.
I have a weird response to that because I thought that I'm talking about Wrathbringer right here. I thought it was felt like a really fast-paced book. But I also thought that it was like a lot slower plot-wise than I was expecting. So while the book read fast-paced, I was thinking the end of Wrathbringer, when I went into the book, I thought that was going to happen like in the first part of the book. But it took the whole book to get there. That's not a criticism. I'm just noticing that. And I thought the whole book was was
Oh, I think he froze.
I think we lost him.
He was about to give one of his.
cut out.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you are.
Ah,
Okay.
Back.
Sorry. No, it's not a hot take. What I was just going to say was, at least I don't think it's a hot take. What I was just going to say was I was really expecting the end of Wrathbringer to be the beginning of Wrathbringer.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the stuff that happened, or I guess a lot of stuff that didn't happen in Wrathbringer that I was thinking was going to happen, like Einar returning to Damien,
Mhm.
and kind of a lot of the stuff I was anticipating happening, I think is going to happen in book 3. And so I'm excited for that. Quite a bit, actually. I think book 3 is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, Wrathbringer opens up after the winter. So Hellborn King ends when winter is coming, and so then Wrathbringer picks up where winter's ending. So then there's the warband is kind of reassembling, and they're getting their game plan together for spring, and then they set off on campaign. And I tried to sprinkle battles throughout the book to kind of keep keep the action in there, like when they do the siege. And Sylvia is hallucinating on mushrooms, and she's seeing the Batanthians and the Blackthorn as these creatures, and she's just freaking out and attacking them. And then then as the warband is pushing south, and they're sacking these villages and everything. So I tried to put some combat and some action in there just to not make it feel like it's just a slog to get to the big epic battle at the end. So, but book 3, I think just the way it's sort of preliminarily planning out in my head is there's going to be a lot of action throughout.
Can I offer like the weirdest compliment ever?
We would expect nothing.
So I'm like a big fan of words or names that are easily pronounceable or digestible, and especially ones that feel unique, and specifically the word Batanthian. Every time I read that, I'm like, that's cool.
Oh,
I
thank you.
I know it's a weird compliment, but I've
I know
thought
what you
about
mean.
that ever since the beginning of like Hellborn King. I was like, oh, I like that name. I don't know why, but it really clicks. So I wanted to say it because that feeling persisted in the second book too.
I'm actually really glad to hear you say that, because I struggle with names, like even remembering people's names I have a hard time with. And so coming up with names is extremely difficult. Like it's almost excruciating. Like it almost causes me pain to come up with names. And so it took me so long to come up with Batanthia and Batanthian and all this. And I don't even remember how it popped in my head. I think I was just kind of just coming up with gibberish in my head, just syllables or just whatever. And then just trying to build off of that. And just, I don't know exactly how it popped in my head, but all of a sudden it's like Batanthia, and I was like, run off to Google, see if that's been done before.
Yeah.
And then I run off to Google Translate to see if it means something in another language, because I'd hate to have it be like something ridiculous in some other language. So once those two things checked out, I was like, all right, well, here we go. I got my name. So yeah, I'm very glad to hear you say that.
I know it's weird, but I really liked it. Okay.
No, I think the names I struggle with. I think it's well known now that names are about it, but all the names are really, I can't pronounce all of them, but I can keep track of them when I'm reading. So,
but you can get your own version of them, and I think owning your own version is just as important as pronouncing what the original intent was. Like that's
yeah. I personally, as an author and as a reader, I have like one philosophy that I prefer in books, especially as a reader, but I also strive to write it this way, and that's make your names easily pronounceable. They don't have to be pronounced correctly, but as long as the letters and the syllables form like some sort of like thing that you can pull from that, instead of looking at like A K K K L L apostrophe Y L T Z, and then you're just like glazed. No one knows how to pronounce that, and so everyone just is, they either skim over it or they call it something weird. And I think that really, for me anyway, really pulls me out of a story. If I can't, I might not get every name correct in my head, but at least I have a way of saying the name and I think that is, like, for me especially, super important. If there's too many names like that, I actually leave. I DNF the book because I just can't get into it if I can't like
Yeah.
actually read the name and know what it like says. I might, like I said, get it wrong, but at least I can say it.
Jermaine had comment. At first, I was concerned there wasn't a dramatis personae, but given that the names are all easily memorable and the characters are also memorable, it isn't needed.
Oh, I didn't even notice that there wasn't one. Huh.
Yeah. I try to keep all the names, easily pronounceable. Couple of syllables, just keep it pleasant to the eye, because like John said, it breaks your immersion when you're reading, and then you got to sit there like, what the hell is this, and you got to kind of decipher what it is. Yeah, it's immersion breaking. So even some of the more fantastical barbarian names, like there's a character called Yolkud in there. He's one of the Zalmacian marauders. There's the Obneri, which is a new people that you see in the epilogue, and then a guy like Cookvord, who's this legendary warrior. But I try to keep them fantastical sounding, but still easy to read, easy to pronounce. Your eye kind of skims over it, and it doesn't act like a speed bump,
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's definitely one of the greatest strengths, I think, of the book is that you get a sense of the individuality of the characters, even though some of them are big bands of people. The second book especially differentiating between the Nothinx and the Zalmacians and all those little tribes of Kvatli, you get a good sense actually of what makes them different from each other and actually why there's conflict within these people. Even though you're kind of maybe only getting 10, 15 pages of a point of view each time, you still build it in. That's cool.
Yeah, and when I write these characters, these particular points of view, it's very much mood writing for me. Like I cannot write a certain character if I'm not in the mood for it.
Right.
Which is why when I write, I skip around constantly. I'll write a book, a chapter in Act 1, and then I'll write something in Act 3, just because,
Oh my God.
Sometimes I'll just be in the mindset like I just really want to write Lucetta chapters, and then I'll do one and then another and then another. Even though I know I really got to finish this Gareth chapter, but I just can't do it because I'm not in that headspace. So for me, it's very much being in the proper mood. I have LED lighting around my entire workspace, so I have different colors for different characters, and
wow.
I just get myself in the mood. I burn different scents of incense. Sometimes I'll turn the lights out. I'll have the lights on. I'll adjust my surroundings. I'll listen to different playlists, just anything to get me in the mood for that character.
I don't know how you do it because you, well, as far as I know from what you're saying about book 3, you don't really seem like a plotter. And so kind of, okay. I just like, oh man, I don't know how you can go to like Act 3. I'm such a chronological writer, but I'm also very sporadic like you. Like if I'm not in the mood to write someone, I struggle to get through that chapter, and I also don't plan anything out. So like at the end of the chapter, I start the next chapter like about whoever I feel like whoever I'm really interested in writing. But I agree and empathize with you there, but holy crap, I can't even think about writing a chapter that's like 200 pages like away. I would have no idea what that would even be about. So
yeah, I don't think that's going to happen with book 3 because I know so little about where it's going to go. It was easy for these two because I wrote them in my head pretty much simultaneously.
okay.
So I knew what was. I mean, obviously, I left enough wiggle room for surprises and new characters and things along the way that kind of came up, and I was like, wow, like I want to go in this direction. So I leave enough wiggle room for that, but ultimately, I knew where I wanted to lead. Whereas for books 3, 4, and 5, I have ideas of major events that are going to happen. I know certain characters that are going to die, but anything can change. I could end up changing my mind completely and say, no, this death I had planned forever, I'm not going to do that because, things are just leading me in a different direction. But yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be confined to just working on like one act at a time with this book, just so I don't get too in over my head on it.
And Jeremy had a question: is Lucetta purple?
Not-
on your lights?
Oh, Lucetta is no, Lucetta is actually red.
Ah.
Yes, and
That
so
makes sense.
and
It's
so
like a
I
pen.
have, yeah, I have this light here. Let me see if I can. Let's see if it'll turn up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so this is an LED torch light that simulates. Yeah, you can't really see it too well, but yeah. So I have that going, and then I'll light candles and stuff on the desk, and just really get in that dark, like just brooding, just like I'll listen to black metal and just like really dark music, just to really get myself in the mood for it. So yeah, I definitely have to have the right surroundings in order to do it.
Nice.
You have the
And,
coolest productivity writing sprints.
and Aaron said Gareth has to be green.
Gareth is green and Einar is green.
Ah.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
Red does make sense.
Yes.
Well, red and blue do make purple, so.
Yeah. So, Christopher, when can we expect your novella to be in our grubby little mitts?
Wow. Well, depending on my work schedule this winter, I'm hoping to have it out sometime in the spring, but do not quote me on that. Don't hold me to that. Anything can happen. Right now, working a lot of really punishing hours, so I haven't written anything like in 2 weeks, just because that's just how it's been. But I'm hoping to get the prequel novella out in spring, maybe early summer at the latest. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then book 3, who knows on that one. I'm gonna work as diligently as I can to get it done. It was about 1.5 years between Hellborn King and Wrathbringer, so maybe it'll be something similar.
Yes.
Don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, no pressure. Just looking forward to it.
Oh, no pressure.
Yeah. But it doesn't seem to have done George R.R. Martin any harm. Gaps between books, so.
To be fair, he's like super famous with a massive audience, though. That helps.
And he's got like 50,000 projects he's working on and
the show
consulting
really,
on and
yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, my goal is to have this all done. Let's see, I turned 39 in January. My goal is to have everything done and be working on the spinoff series before I turn 45 for sure.
According to John, that makes you ancient.
Well, that's a comment from last night because I said that I felt super old and I'm 34. So, but yeah, you're super old. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel it every day, my man.
I know. It's like, oh man,
good company.
It's like 30 hit, and then every year after that, it's like, oh god, I'm getting just ancient here.
Cool. So, anything else you guys can think of you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
I mean, I had a question, and then I totally forgot what it was. So, it's really annoying.
You'll remember as soon as we wrap up, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah, probably.
Nothing else for me other than like super loving the series.
Mm-hmm.
Like Grease, I like Hellborn King, and I loved with it after Wrathbringer. I'm really, really into. Whenever we get the next book, that's cool. It'll be straight in front of me.
Yeah, I think book 3 will be the best easily. I just have a feeling.
Boy, no pressure. No pressure at all on this
yeah.
one.
Yeah, Christopher, you better do it. And if you don't, then I'll be super angry. I'm just kidding.
See, I also have this theory, though. If you're that invested after 2 books, the 3rd book could be complete and utter hot garbage, but you'd still love it because you're already invested in the characters and stuff anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I the amount of times, it's only when you reflect back on something that you go, maybe it was down in the middle between 2 and 4 or whatever, but at the time it's like, no, this is injected into my veins.
Yeah,
I think that happens with a lot of prominent series.
Yeah.
I think I've avoided the sophomore curse, if I may be so bold as to say it, but
sure.
The bar I think has been set pretty high for book 3, and I really don't want to let anybody down and have you get through book 1 and say, okay, yeah, this is good. Book 2 is really good, and then you get to book 3 and it's like, oh, he dropped the ball. I agonize over that sometimes. Like, God, I just really want to just nail this and really stick the landing at the end and have people say that, this was just an amazing series, and, have them want more to come, like with the spinoff and everything.
Yeah. Excited for you, man.
Excited.
Yeah.
Just
Excited
elevate Gareth to greatness, and you'll do the right thing. There we go.
I like Aaron's comment there at the end too.
Aaron, please no to the GRM model.
Yeah. John will be finishing your series. Yeah, and then everybody's gonna die if John finishes the series.
Yeah.
Apart from Gareth.
everybody.
I mean, that's so true. If I finished the series, it would go in the worst direction possible because so many people would die, and probably people would be annoyed because Gareth would be like the hero at the end, and he'd get what he wanted, and everyone else would probably die. Right? And then the ending, I'd have to do something to make Gareth's ending not super happy. So maybe he gets a dog that's like he's really close to in book 3, and then in book 5, maybe a huge stone from a trebuchet lands on it. Great, paints the ground red with its blood.
Everybody who's watching this, do not let your pets near John.
Yeah.
Hey, in all fairness, I live with a ton of pets. I've never been the reason any of them have died because I don't interact with them. So.
Oh man. So on that note, so Christopher, if people want to connect with you or find your work, where's the best place to find you?
They can find my work on Amazon. I don't have an audiobook for Wrathbringer yet. You can get the audiobook for Hellborn King on Audible. You can find me online at ChristopherGBrenning.com. Twitter is the best place, at ChrisGBrenning. And I just want to thank everybody for the support and for hanging out with us tonight. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
And John, where can people find your work and find you?
Also on Amazon. I do have a website, johnpaladino.com. I don't usually advertise it because I don't keep on top of it much, but there's some short stories on there. And I'm also really active on Twitter at agrimbastard. I should probably change that username.
Oh, it sticks.
It's pretty fitting. I think it's pretty fitting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
pretty accurate. And Chris, where can people find you?
Yeah, better than my Twitter username, which is at 7o'clockshadow. It isn't as edgy. And you can also find me on my YouTube channel at my name, Chris Moore.
Might have to change mine to at King of Hot Takes.
There you go.
Yeah, also accurate. Yeah. So thanks everyone for coming by. Thank you, Christopher, for talking about both books with us. It's been great to be able to sit down and pick your brain.
Absolutely.
And thanks everyone for coming by in the chat and interacting with us. It always makes it a lot more fun. So everyone have a great night and stay warm if you're in the bad part of the country that's getting hammered. We'll see everyone soon.
Take care.